There is something happening inside you right now, not on the surface, not in the part of you that makes lists, answers messages, and plans tomorrow, but in the deeper place, the quiet place, the place that stirs at night when the world finally goes silent and you are left alone with what you've been carrying. You feel it, don't you? That low, persistent ache that doesn't quite have a name. That sense that something in your life has been standing still for too long. That invisible wall between where you are and where you know, somewhere in your bones, you were always meant to be. You didn't arrive at this video by accident. The soul has a way of drawing toward it exactly what it needs, precisely when it needs it. And if something inside you recognized this moment before your mind had time to decide, then what I'm about to share with you isn't just a teaching, it is a meeting. A moment your life has been quietly moving toward. Stay with me, because before this is over, something inside you is going to shift. There is a truth that most people spend an entire lifetime never discovering. Not because it's hidden behind great complexity. Not because it requires years of education or spiritual initiation. But because it goes completely against everything the world teaches us from the time we are children. We are raised to believe that life shapes us from the outside in, that what happens to us determines who we are, that circumstances arrive like weather and we simply endure them or escape them if we are lucky enough. But there is an older understanding, a knowing that stretches back thousands of years, across every major spiritual tradition that has ever walked this earth, from the river banks of the Ganges to the red desert canyons of the American Southwest, from the monasteries carved into Himalayan rock to the ancient healing circles of indigenous elders in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. And every one of those traditions, separated by oceans and centuries, arrived at the same quiet, extraordinary conclusion. The world around you is not creating your experience. Your inner world is. What you carry inside, the unresolved grief, the fears that never get spoken aloud, the old story that says you've somehow gone too long without your blessing, that maybe the good things are meant for other people, that invisible interior landscape is the very field from which your outer life grows. This isn't a philosophy. This isn't poetry. This is the most practical, grounded spiritual truth you will ever encounter, and it changes everything, including what I am going to teach you tonight. If this is speaking to something real in your life right now, if you've been carrying a weight that feels older than just this year, if you've been waiting for something to finally break open and move, I want you to subscribe to this channel before we go any deeper. Because what you're going to find here, week after week, is exactly this. Not surface-level inspiration, not spiritual platitudes wrapped in pretty words, but the real teachings, the kind that reach into the places you thought no one else could see. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell, so the next time something is prepared for you, it finds you. Now let's continue. I want to tell you about something that happened many years ago. I was sitting with a man I had traveled a great distance to learn from. He was not famous. He did not have followers in the modern sense of the word. But there were people, quiet people, serious people, who crossed entire countries just to sit in a room with him for an afternoon. He was a healer. Not the kind that makes dramatic proclamations. The kind whose stillness alone made something inside you settle down before he ever opened his mouth. We were sitting near a window late in the day when the light was going golden and the room was getting soft and warm. There was a clay bowl on the table between us, filled with water and coarse sea salt. I had noticed it when I arrived, but hadn't asked about it. After a long silence, he looked at me and said something I have never forgotten. He said, "Most people pray with their voices, but very few people pray with their presence. When you learn to bring your whole self, not just your words, but your actual being, into contact with something that carries intention, the field around you responds in ways the mind cannot calculate. Then he gestured at the bowl. Water is the most honest substance in the natural world, he said. It takes the shape of whatever holds it. It carries whatever is placed within it. It has no agenda, no resistance, no pride. And salt is ancient. It was used to seal covenants, to protect the sacred, to preserve what matters across time. Together, they become something the old ones understood and the modern world has nearly forgotten. He didn't explain further. He simply placed both hands over the bowl, closed his eyes, and sat in silence for a long moment. I watched the water, and I felt something I could not name then, and can barely name now. A kind of electricity that wasn't electric, a presence that seemed to thicken the air in the room. It was years before I understood what I had witnessed. Let's talk about what water actually is. Because most of us look at it as a utility, something that flows from a faucet, something that serves a function and nothing more. But water is the only substance on earth that exists naturally in all three forms, liquid, solid, and vapor, and can move between them without losing its essential nature. Ancient peoples noticed this. They understood, long before modern science could quantify it, that water behaves differently from anything else in the created world. It responds. Water holds the memory of what it has touched. This isn't mystical language. Researchers who have studied the structural properties of water have documented that its molecular arrangement shifts in response to its environment, to temperature, to sound, and yes, to intention. The wisdom traditions knew this experientially long before it could be observed in a laboratory. And salt. What can we say about salt that does justice to its sacred history? Every ancient civilization on earth held salt as something close to divine. The Romans paid their soldiers partly in salt. The word salary comes from this practice. Native American ceremonies use salt to mark the boundary between ordinary and sacred space. In Jewish tradition, every offering brought to the altar was seasoned with salt. The Celtic peoples scattered salt at the threshold of a new home to seal it in protection. The ancient Egyptians used salt in the preparation of the sacred, in the preservation of what was meant to endure. This is not coincidence. Separate cultures, separate continents, separate centuries, and they all arrived at salt as the guardian of something invisible, something real. When you combine water and salt with genuine, grounded intention, you are not performing superstition. You are connecting with one of the oldest spiritual technologies the human family has ever known. And tonight you are going to use it. But before I walk you through the practice itself, I need to say something that most people who talk about rituals like this never say. And it might be the most important thing I tell you today. The bowl of water and salt will not transform your life. Let me say that again, because I want it to land correctly. The water will not transform your life. The salt will not transform your life. What will transform your life is what happens inside you when you engage with this practice with full sincerity, with full presence, with a part of you that drops the performance, drops the doubt, drops the protective armor you've built over years of hoping for things that didn't arrive the way you expected, and simply becomes open. There is a layer of the human being that operates far beneath the thinking mind. Call it the soul, call it the subconscious, call it the spiritual field. The name matters less than understanding what it does. This deeper layer is the actual architect of your life. It is constantly broadcasting a signal, a frequency made up of your deepest beliefs about yourself, your worthiness, your safety, your right to receive good things. And the outer world, the relationships, the opportunities, the flow of abundance or the lack of it, is always responding to that signal. When something has been blocking you, it is almost never a circumstance. almost never a person, almost never an external obstacle. It is a frequency you have been holding, often without knowing it, that says, "Not yet, not me, not this time." A ritual performed with true presence is one of the most powerful ways the human soul has ever found to interrupt that frequency. To say to that deeper layer of yourself, "I am choosing differently now. I am open now. I am ready now." That is what tonight is really about. Here is how you do this. Choose a time when the day has grown quiet. Evening is natural for this, not because of any mystical hour, but because the world slows down, the noise recedes, and your nervous system begins to release the tension it has been holding since morning. You need a quality of presence that daytime rarely offers. Find a container made of glass or ceramic, something that feels clean and intentional in your hands. Fill it with pure water, filtered if you have it, or natural spring water. As you pour the water, pour it slowly. Let that simple act already become a signal. You are not rushing. You are not multitasking. You are here fully for this. Add sea salt or coarse natural salt, not a pinch, a generous amount, given slowly, grain by grain if you can bear the patience. As each grain touches the water, let your attention follow it. Watch it dissolve. Something about watching salt disappear into water carries its own quiet teaching. Nothing simply vanishes, it transforms. Stir with your right hand, slow circles, and feel the water push back gently against your fingers. Feel the temperature. Feel the texture as the salt begins to integrate. Stay there. Don't let your mind race ahead to what comes next. Be in the sensation of creation. Now take a clean sheet of white paper and a pen. Write your name, just your name. But as you write each letter, bring yourself into it. Your name is not just a sound. It is the vibration that has identified your soul in this lifetime. It is what the people who loved you first called out across a room when they wanted you. It carries your history, your lineage, your belonging to this world. Write it as if you are writing something sacred, because you are. Below your name, write what you are ready to release. The exhaustion, the block that has been sitting on your chest, the pattern that keeps returning, the place where you feel stuck. Write it simply, not a long list, not an essay, just the honest truth of what has been heavy. And then below that, write what you are calling in. Abundance, healing, peace, a door opening, a burden lifted, a life that finally begins to breathe. Fold the paper slowly. Hold it in both hands against your heart. Close your eyes. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. And with each breath out, let something go. Not forced, not performed. Simply released, the way smoke rises from a candle when the flame is finally at rest. Then, with quiet faith, not the dramatic faith of someone performing certainty, but the small, honest faith of someone who has decided to be open, place the paper in the water. Let it rest there. Don't hover over it with anxious eyes. Don't watch it as though you are waiting for a sign in the next 30 seconds. Simply let it be there, the way you plant something in the earth. You don't stand over the soil every hour. You trust the process happening in the dark. Leave the ball somewhere still and quiet for at least 24 hours. Somewhere where light can reach it during the day, a windowsill, a table near a door. Let it sit. Let it work in whatever way such things work, in the dimension that operates beneath the surface of visible life. Now, I want to speak to you about what comes after, because this is where most people, with the most sincere intentions, give the blessing back. They perform the ritual. They feel something genuine in the moment. And then, within a day or two, The old frequency creeps back in. The doubt returns. The impatience arrives with its familiar voice. Nothing is changing. This isn't working. Why did I think anything would be different? And they close the door that they just spent a sacred hour opening. The ancient teachers understood something about the nature of transformation that our modern minds resist. Change does not always announce itself. It does not always arrive with fanfare and obvious signs. Sometimes the first movement of something shifting is felt only in the quiet. A morning where the heaviness is slightly less. An unexpected moment of clarity in the middle of an ordinary afternoon. A thought that appears out of nowhere and feels less like thinking and more like receiving. These are not accidents. These are the first tremors of a field reorganizing itself. The farmer does not panic because the seed hasn't appeared above the soil by the third day. The farmer trusts the biological law of growth. He knows that the most important work is happening underground, out of sight, in the dark, exactly where it is supposed to happen. You must hold that same trust. Not as a performance, not as spiritual bypassing, where you smile and pretend everything is fine, but as a genuine, grounded knowing that you have set something in motion, and that the universe, which has never once failed to respond to sincere intention, is already moving on your behalf in the invisible. After 24 hours have passed, take the bowl and bring it outside. Pour the water slowly into the earth, into a garden, a planter, the base of a tree, any piece of living ground you can find. If you are in an apartment high above the street, a potted plant will receive it gladly. As the water leaves the bowl, say quietly, out loud if you can, thank you. Not to the ritual, not even to the water specifically, but to life itself, to the consciousness that holds everything in place. To whatever name you carry for the sacred, simply thank you. Gratitude, the teachers always said, is not a courtesy. Gratitude is a signal. It tells the field around you that you believe the good is already present, already moving, already on its way. And that belief, held honestly, without grasping, without desperation, is the most powerful attractor in the spiritual universe. Whoever walks through life in genuine gratitude is never truly poor. And whoever walks through life in genuine gratitude is never truly alone. I want to speak to you now about a pattern I have observed in people who feel spiritually blocked for long stretches of time. It is not usually a lack of faith. Most people who feel blocked believe in something larger than themselves. They pray, they hope, they search. The block is almost never spiritual. It is relational. What I mean is this: somewhere along the way, something happened. A disappointment, a loss, a period of suffering that went on too long. And a part of you quietly decided that it wasn't safe to want things too openly. That hoping too hard only led to falling harder. That the protection of low expectations was more bearable than the devastation of another unanswered prayer. And so the inner world contracted, not dramatically, slowly, subtly, until one day you realized you had stopped expecting the miraculous, not because you stopped believing in it, but because you couldn't afford the heartache of being disappointed one more time. That contraction is the block, and what dissolves it is not more information, not more spiritual knowledge, not even more prayer in the traditional sense. What dissolves it is exactly what you are doing tonight, a simple, embodied, fully present act of choosing once again to be open, of saying with your hands and your name and your breath, I am still here, I still believe, I am still worth reaching, because you are. That is not a comfort offered to make you feel better. That is the foundational teaching of every wisdom tradition that has endured across time. You were not placed in this life to be forgotten. You were not meant to arrive at this age carrying only what has been lost. The most ancient teachings agree. The human soul was made for flourishing, and whatever covers that flourishing can be met, dissolved, and left behind. Tonight, you begin again. If you have walked all the way to this moment with me, if something in this teaching has moved something real inside you, I want you to do one thing before you leave this video. Write in the comments below whatever you are ready to call into your life. One word, one phrase, your declaration. Prosperity, healing, peace, a new beginning, an open door. Write it as though you mean it, because the act of naming it, publicly, honestly, without shame, is itself a spiritual act. It is you saying to the field of your own life, I am ready, I deserve this, I am no longer waiting in silence. And when you write it, know that you are not alone in that comment section. There are people in real need, carrying real weight, who will read your words at exactly the moment they needed to read them. Your declaration might be the thing that gives someone else the courage to declare theirs. One last thing before I close. Whatever brought you to this video today, whether it was restlessness or quiet desperation or a simple spiritual hunger that has been growing for years, trust that. Trust the part of you that sought this out. That seeking is not weakness. It is not neediness. It is the soul doing what souls are designed to do. Moving toward the light. Moving toward alignment. Moving toward the version of life that has always been waiting, just on the other side of the frequency you are about to change. Tonight, put your name in the salt water. Bring your whole self to it. Not the performance of faith, the real thing. The small, quiet, genuine thing. The thing that says, I am here, I am open, I am ready. And then watch, not with frantic eyes, but with the patient, peaceful attention of someone who has planted something holy and knows, with the kind of knowing that lives below all words, that it is already growing. If these teachings are part of the path you are walking, support this channel by becoming a member. Your support is what keeps this work alive and reaching the people who need it. The ones searching at midnight, the ones who almost didn't click, the ones for whom one video, one word, one moment of recognition changed the entire direction of a season. Be part of making that possible. Until we meet again, walk in peace. Walk in the certainty that you are seen, that you are held, and that the best of what your life can be is not behind you. It is still ahead, and it is closer than you think.